Welcome to my July 14th, 2026 webinar, My Resident Alien. I'll start with a quote and then I'll explain what all of this is about. Quote from the hero of the story, the alien on Earth, says, "There are many terrifying things in the world, but the most terrifying is love." And I chose that quote because it kind of sets a theme for to describe what this show is about. It's on Netflix, called Resident Alien. The show is, well, honestly, it's goofy but profound. Most of the characters are, frankly, absurd, yet charming in their own way, with their flaws, their many flaws, but they are deeply human. Um, and it's so the show is so goofy that it's not the kind I usually relate to, but because it touches on these fundamental themes of what it is to be human, that I thought it would be worth talking about. And I'll try to connect that to the energy work that I do. But the show raises so many questions about what it is to be human. Here are some of the questions. First, and I'm writing this from my point of view, but I'm trying to be kind of funny in a goofy way, the way the show is. What's with this part of me that acts like it's from another planet? What is it trying to teach me about being human, about emotions such as love, jealousy, anger, resentment, gratitude, about making a fool of myself, about living with conflicts and contradictions, which we all do, right? About hopes and desires that seem beyond reach or utterly insane. How could it be that the things that make me vulnerable as a human, connection, compassion, caring, collaboration, are also the things that allow me to survive, to thrive, and to grow? How can I function autonomously as my own person, and yet maintain attachment in an intimate relationship? Very fundamental question. How can I be both an independent person and a member of groups, social groups, religious, political, any other kind of group you can think of? How can I grow towards enlightenment, a state of non attachment, while being attached to many people and fulfilling many roles, familial, occupational, social? These are pretty good questions for a really far out, clownish sort of TV show. Rather profound. So ask yourself, is there a resident alien within you? A part of you that feels like it doesn't belong or doesn't fit in, that won't surrender to society's rules, at least strongly tries to buck them, and steadfastly seeks to ignore restrictions imposed by others? Is there a resident alien within you who seems to live for a different purpose and has different goals than those set by your family, your church, your community, your society? Now, this resident alien, it might be what Freud called the id. In German, it's das Es, the it. Or perhaps it's your feral child. I did a webinar on that, I think last year sometime. Um, that was, I really had fun with that webinar because I did that with a gal who wrote a song called Feral Child, and she attended, she was participated in the webinar, was co-host with me, and we played her song, which was recorded. Um, And that was really quite fun. So we have a notion of what this resident alien, this alien that dwells within us, not a foreign entity exact, although it does feel foreign a lot of times. So I ask a question. Could it be that the part of you that seeks answers to the most profound questions about what it is to be human and what you were seeking in this life, the answers we'll see lie in learning to manage unsteady emotional landscape, to connect intimately with others, to manage internal and external conflict, to collaborate with others and work towards goals, to maintain autonomy and connection simultaneously, at the same time. Autonomy and connection, two opposite things. Immediately there's a seeming conflict unless something else is there. And that something else is that last purpose to develop presence, being self referral, being oneself in the deepest transcendental sense of that word. And from that level, being able to live 200% of life, 100% of the transcendental value of cosmic intelligence, cosmic will, and to live 100% of an earthly human life. That's quite an undertaking. It's quite an undertaking. Um, Regardless of what we might call it, our resident alien creates struggles, internal conflicts within us that challenge our sense of well being and our ability to function in the world by trying to be both oneself and oneself in relation to others, occupationally, socially, interpersonally. So, how does one juggle these internal conflicts, live with one's resident alien, and still find peace within oneself? How do we do that? It's not done on the level of the intellect. It's not done on the level of talking about it. Um, Psychologists have clients that come in and they talk about their life and their struggles and their conflicts, and they talk about them. And, at least from my understanding, they talk about them and they talk about them and they talk about them. And occasionally they get an insight. Sometimes the psychologist helps, prompts that insight, pushes things along a little bit, tries to provide some perspective. And from that insight, people begin to understand, maybe make a little bit of change in their behavior. But change, in my experience, people dealing with psychologists, psychiatrists, change comes very slowly, if at all. And I've known people who've been in therapy for decades. I suspect that what they have is a paid friendship. It's a one-way friendship, but at least they have a friend. Somebody who listens to them, somebody who shows understanding and insight, compassion, but they don't change. Or if they change, they don't change very much. And I've never been happy with that. I've never been happy with that. To deal with conflict, the approach I use, either I do it on the subtle level, just finding the energies that are involved, that underlie the emotions that are involved, which may or may not be apparent. That is, the person may or may not be aware of them. Or I do it in a format of interrelationship focusing or symbolic processing, which is derived from that. That's one of my ways of dealing with it, where people start creating a situation, a fantasy that is allowing them to become more and more aware of what each of the different parts of them inside need. And people often have many parts. Working with somebody recently, I think they named 4 or 5 parts that were in conflict over one particular aspect of their behavior, of their character. They knew where it came from. They had a lot of insight. Insight wasn't of much value, not much value. They needed to be able to sit with those parts and pay attention to them, to listen to them, to let them know that they were there with them, for them, giving them empathy, which means they had to come from a place of presence. They had to come from a place of observation, neutral observation, without judgment, right? Without imposing any rules or expectations, without asking for change, just accepting, which means that sometimes accepting parts that other parts of us find unacceptable. So then we have to negotiate between those parts, so to speak. We have to let one part see that the other part has making a contribution. They have a purpose. And then that other part has to see that the first part is making a contribution. They have a purpose. And so they may not work together. They may not see the situation the same, but they're both working towards well-being of the person. They're trying to take care of you. And sometimes their body, or not body, that's not the right word, assertive, that's a better word. Body meant intense, but they're assertive. It's like, I'm the right one, I should be this way. And so we may have to be with them, and really help that part come to feel that we, the witness of their experience, the witness of that experience of wanting something a certain way or believing things are a certain way. Some people believe in their own powerlessness. A few people believe in their own power. But some people believe in their powerlessness. They feel helpless. They feel without power to change their life. And there's all kinds of programs out there to help you do those kinds of things. But dealing with the fundamental energies that are producing the conflict within, that then makes us unable to move forward. That's a real trick. That's a real trick. And so we have to deal with those parts and go like, no, we can't change. We shouldn't change. Don't want to change. Change is difficult. Change is painful. Change is ugly. Change is scary. And when it comes to emotional stuff, we have fears, we have jealousy, we have anger, we have frustration. Occasionally we have joy, and hopefully we have love. And as the quote said at the beginning, I'll read that again because I thought that was not a good quote. It's not a nice quote, but it captures kind of the challenge that the alien is feeling. There are so many terrifying things in the world, but the most terrifying is love because it makes us vulnerable. It makes us open to being rejected, to being criticized. There's another quote from the show. There aren't very many quotes that actually dwell on this particular theme. It's interesting that the people in the world out there who gather quotes tend to look at the kind of what I regard as some of the stupider things that get said. But one of them, speaking of stupid, one of them is humans do stupid things all the time. It's like their national sport. So this is an outsider looking in and seeing what humans do and being very critical of it. But we all do stuff. And sometimes there's a voice inside of us that goes like, that's pretty stupid. What did you think was going to happen when you did that? Not a good situation at all. Not a good situation. So we have to learn to juggle these internal conflicts. But we don't do it on the level of the conflict. We don't do it on the level of the psychology of that because it's very slow progress. We do it on the level of the energies of the parts that are holding those particular points of view. and we pay attention to them without judgment, without criticism, without expectation for change. And then we can find peace within ourselves. So we walk a path, and that path is seeking ever greater presence, the ability to be with whatever's going on and everything that's going on and not be overshadowed by it. It's just happening. There's this, and there's this, and there's this, and we deal with it, and we deal with it, and we deal with it, and everything is okay. It's about the development of what is called self-referral consciousness. It's that transcendental value of self that is beyond all experience, beyond all suffering, beyond all joy. It is self-referral consciousness. It knows itself by itself without reference to anything external. So we don't need praise. We don't need pats on the back. We don't need building up. We don't even need success. We just are there within ourselves, witnessing everything that goes on. So we say we are present. Presence is a good word. I like that word. And this state of enlightenment, as we grow in enlightenment, as we develop more and more presence, we develop more and more emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to process stuff, the feelings associated with everything that's going on, without getting overshadowed by it. I had an interesting experience. I think I've mentioned it before on a webinar, but it's worth repeating it here because we're talking about developing presence. So my little granddaughter, I have felt since she was quite small, had a tremendous amount of presence, eyes that just took in everything around her. One of her sisters, half sisters, said she looks into your soul, which I thought was pretty profound for a teenager. She just looks at you, big eyes, looking very deeply at you. That's become much more sophisticated now that she's 6 and has a huge vocabulary and is able to express herself very well. So the thing about her that really got me this experience was that apparently she told one of her preschool teachers that she had watched the show Wednesday from the Addams Family spinoff. Wednesday is one of the daughters. And Wednesday is quite a character. And there's a lot of kind of scary stuff in the story. It's really not for little girls, little kids. Um, and so she had told her teacher that she had watched Wednesday and found it scary. The teacher said, you really shouldn't be watching that, and told her mother, my daughter, and word got to me, and I thought about that, and I said, she treats being scared the same way she treats humor. She finds it funny. She finds it scary, and so on. She has different feelings. But those feelings don't make a deep impression on her. They're just stuff that she witnesses. She experiences them. She is present with her feelings, and she finds being scared kind of fun. And I've known lots of people who do lots of things that I find really scary, and they find them really fun. They aren't overshadowed by those experiences. And so as I look at the little kid, 6 years old, you know, it's like, well, probably shouldn't watch Wednesday, but on the other hand, she handles it better than most people and better than many adults. She can have the experience of being scared without being overshadowed by that experience. It's kind of fun to do it to yourself. Her mother likes to ride roller coasters and other arcade uh, rides, and always rides the scariest ones, things I wouldn't even dream of going on. And she just finds them delightful. She does it all whenever she can. And so, it seems to be an inherited or genetic trait. I'm not sure quite how it works, but it isn't learned. It's something that's just innate to her and it comes from having presence. So we develop emotional intelligence as we grow and grow in self-referral consciousness, in presence. We develop social skills, life skills, vocational skills. We're able to navigate the world from a place of being able to be witness to the experience and just enjoy it. We're just there with it. Ultimately, we discover that the living reality is that I am that unbounded, infinite field of being. I am that. This is from the Upanishads, I think. I am that, thou art that. All this is that. That alone is. There is nothing other than that. It just that takes form and things happen. There is time and there is space and there's activity and stuff gets formed, but it's all made out of, in science, we say the unified field of natural law, the quantum field, some would say. But what we discover is that that field is awake, it's conscious, it's intelligent, it's awake within itself. In other words, being woke is a good thing. Pardon the political kind of thing there. But being awake. In the Vedic tradition, we call it Atma. In English, we tend to call it being or self with a capital S, self. As we develop presence, individual intelligence, that's our cognitive ability, gives way to cosmic intelligence. It's not that we stop thinking, it's that our thinking is in harmony with cosmic intelligence, with what Maharishi called all knowingness. Life guided by natural law rather than individual thinking and feeling. We just know what to do. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it feels like there's this resident alien within us. This other being, it feels like sometimes if it's extreme. That goes like, no, 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 no. What the teachers say, yeah, it's not really accurate. What parents say, well, maybe not. That has its own presence, its own understanding of the universe, and its own sense of direction, even when that doesn't look externally, that is to parental judgment, school judgment, social judgment, when it doesn't look like it's very wise, very good for the person. Well, you should go to school and graduate, and then you go to college and graduate, and then maybe graduate school or tech training or something, and then you get a job, and that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And more we're finding people who don't actually believe that. That's not their path, and they know that. It's like, I'll go do this for a while, and then we'll see what maybe later I will do something very different. It can change. I'm fascinated with this now, but I may find satisfaction in that. I know it for myself. I found satisfaction in medical practice. I did it for a good while. It was very exciting. Got to save a few lives, helped an awful lot of people. It was a really great thing. But I reached a point where I had done it. I felt satisfied with what I did. And I wanted to do something else. Certainly wanted to grow in self-referral consciousness and greater presence. I devoted myself to that. And then my awareness opened to psychic healing abilities, dealing with the subtle energies of the body and the universe, and found much greater fulfillment even in that. And I enjoy doing that still, and I hope to be able to do that for a long time to come. So when life is lived on the level of pure consciousness, on the level of being, on the level of presence, it's lived in fulfillment. We say that the transcendental consciousness is bliss. And what we find is that when we live that in life, when we bring that into our physical life and our emotional life and our social life, bliss becomes blissful. It's a feeling thing, that bliss, that state of absolute equanimity. And we could say joy, but it's not joyful. It's just pure joy. It's just pure bliss. But then when we live it, it becomes blissful, it becomes joyful. We bring that fulfillment of the subtle value into the relative world. We call it the real world, where everything's relative to each other. And bliss is found to be expressed then in the entire manifest creation. All this is that, just that unbounded value. And so that's how we learn to manage what are apparent conflicts, conflicts in emotions, conflicts in desires, conflicts in values, even, and learn to be connected, to be autonomous, and yet have and maintain intimate connection with others, particularly with spouses and children and parents and everybody else. We can be both independent persons and members of groups, families, greater social groups, religious groups, political groups. We can do all of that. And so we experience a great joy. We experience bliss becoming blissful, and life becomes easy, becomes easy. Stuff happens and we just deal with it. There's not a great conflict, a lot of noise. There isn't a lot of noise inside our head. It's nice to get to that point. But the rapid way to get to that point is diving deep into the field of pure consciousness and then coming back into activity. And where necessary, giving attention to those parts of us that have concerns or that have desires, that have needs, and paying attention to them, just paying attention to them, just acknowledging their presence, accepting that they are there and that they're trying to serve a purpose. And then everything can be okay. Okay, I've gone on. That's what I wanted to say. We will start a group clearing session in just a few moments, where we will try to make friends with our resident alien and see if we can't find a way to coexist with it. But while we're on a roll here, our next webinar is going to happen on the second Tuesday of August. That'll be August 11th. And we will explore practical energy healing techniques for physical problems, as explained in the book, Amazing Secrets of Psychic Healing. Can I make that work? I don't know why I can't get there. It worked. Okay, we got it. Amazing Secrets of Psychic Healing. I have to show you this. Book came out in 1980. I think that this copy may be a first edition. I'm not sure. It's an old one. I checked. It is actually still available on Amazon. There aren't very many copies available, but apparently it's still there. And I don't know if Amazon has new ones, but they have paperbacks. Somebody else has hard copies, I think, too. But a wonderful book. It really helped me understand how to heal physical problems. Emotional stuff, I use interrelationship focusing. It's a whole different way of doing things. But this book taught me a lot, so I'm going to review it and we'll talk about that. There are many books on psychic healing on a kind of a practical level. I don't know that I'm going to review other books for this. One's enough, but there are different books. So if you have any of them or care to explore between now and then, feel free to do so. So we'll see you on August 11th. Looking now to see if there's any questions in the chat. I'm not seeing anything come up. So I think we'll end the recording here. And we look forward to seeing you next month. Those of you who are actually attending the webinar tonight, We will continue on with our group clearing session in just a moment.